Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the Boxhard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the Boxhard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 159 of the Boxhard Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra is missing once again. It's now been 2 weeks. No one's heard from him. We need to get the hashtag going. Pray for Ayaz. Where is Ayaz? Nobody knows, but we do have a very good replacement here, of course. It is the man who was here last week. He's here this week once again. It is IFL TV's Umar Ahmed. Umar, thank you for coming on once again. Welcome to the show. How are you?
It's becoming a regular occurrence now, but yeah, I'm all good. You?
Very good, my friend, very good. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. Let's waste no time. I don't think there's going to be too much going on in the preview part because there's not really too much to go over, but let's start with, like I say, the review part. We're going to start in a place called Salé du Mont in a place in France somewhere, if you didn't guess by my accent there. We're going to start with Ilunga Makabu, former opponent of Tony Bellew. He got in there against a guy called Pata Aduashvili, which I'm probably saying his name extremely wrong. But anyway, this guy was 26-24 with 3 draws. Pretty much a keep busy fight, if you like. A little bit of a tick over for Makabu. And it was exactly that. A second round KO for Makabu. He's now 23-2. Then, moving over now to the York Hall Arena in Bethnal Green, London. Myself and Umar were actually at this one, sitting next to each other, I believe, for the entire night. Let's talk about the undercard here. I'm just going to really mention a couple of guys, and if you want to fill in a few gaps here, then Umar, you are welcome to do so. I'm going to start with Johnny Coyle. He moved to 20-0 with 1 draw, a points win over 6 rounds against his opponent, Arvidas Trisno. I think I've seen him once or twice before, a journeyman, but still a win there for him. We also saw Dan Aziz step in against Charles Adamu, a man that's been in there with the likes of Carl Froch and various others. George Groves also. A tough guy, a man that's 41 years of age now, so everyone knows he is getting on a little bit. His record 32-11 going into this bout here. Dan Aziz was set to take on, who's he set to take on again, Umar? Because it fell through last minute kind of thing.
Cotier.
That's it, yes, he was supposed to take on Coty, So yeah, a little bit annoying for him, I guess, for the opponent change there, but he did get in with another tough guy, and, you know, he's passed this test once again. It was a good learning fight. I really think it was. It's a humongous step up in class for just your 6th fight, so no problem with that on my point. But yeah, points win over 6 rounds for Dan Aziz. He's still undefeated, still has that perfect record intact. Yeah, I just want to throw it over to you, Mar. Have I missed out any of the other kind of undercard fights? I'm going to get onto McKinson and McNess, and obviously the main event. But is there any others that I may have not really done a great service for on the undercard that I could have missed?
Missed nothing major. I mean, there was a few debutants who impressed, but yeah, I was going to say McKinson, McNess. Come on to that. That was probably the main fight on the undercard.
Yeah, you can go straight into that if you like.
Yeah, I mean, beforehand, McNess was the favourite, definitely the bigger name, and McKinson just blew everyone away. It was class. I mean, his head movement, ring generalship, the way he was putting his shots together. McNess was standing in front of him and looked lost, really, and that was for the whole duration of the fight. McKinson with a shutout win and definitely did his name no harm live on Box Nation in front of a packed York Hall. So well done to him.
Yeah, very well done to him. One thing that shocked me so much in that fight is McNess was being made to miss so much, like really, really miss as well, which you don't really see from him. I think McNess is quite an accurate puncher, quite a solid professional, really, quite a well-rounded fighter. So very surprised to see him miss the way he was missing. He was being hit repeatedly with McKinson's backhand, very often for me. McNess also was kind of abandoning his jab. There was no head movement from McNess, which I think you picked up on, Umar. McNess was bigger physically, but he just couldn't get his rhythm going at all. McKinson was very, very skilled in there. Again, it was the first time I've actually sat down and watched him, and he really did impress me. McNess's hooks weren't working. His 1-2 wasn't working, which he tried repeatedly, and McKinson was just too cute for him. McNess had his nose blooded, I think, about the midway kind of point of the fight, maybe a little bit earlier than the midway, actually. But yeah, McNess, of course, went down in that fight. I think it was round... do we remember which round it was?
No, I can't. I think it was mid-round.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, yeah, he went down at some point. I forgot the round, so I apologise for that. But, very difficult for McNess to come back from this, really. Great elusiveness from McKinson. He's obviously a very, very slick southpaw. Actually, he's got a very similar style to Andrew Selby. That's what I picked up on, which I didn't think that bigger guys could even have a similar style to Selby, because his movement's so good, and I've always thought that's probably because he's a flyweight. He's a smaller guy, so I thought that was why. But no, McKinson showed me a lot of stuff similar to what we see when Andrew Selby fights, and we will be speaking to Andrew Selby later on in the show. But yeah, I want to see this guy McKinson in there with a few of the domestic super welterweights. I think we've got a brilliant domestic scene right now in Britain, Umar. I mean, you've got the likes of, again, I'm not asking for this fight next, but you've got the likes of Urasinia Byfields. We will get onto him, and Ted Cheeseman, who's another name there. You've got Liam Williams. There's so many guys at super welterweight. There's many more. I'm just literally naming a couple off the very top of my head, but there's a brilliant mix domestically now at that weight.
Yeah, you've got also Anthony Fowler and Scott Fitzgerald, who are likely to fight. But yeah, no one wants McKinson in them sort of fights yet, but definitely for the future wise, he could be right up there from that performance I saw on Friday night. Top draw from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm probably leaving out even Sam Eggington. You'd like him in the mix as well. Jason Wellborn, these types of guys. People obviously forget a lot about some of the guys just underneath that level, like your Jimmy Kellys and people like that. But yeah, a lot of fantastic fights to be made domestically, should they happen. That was a defence, though, of McKinson's WBC International Silver Welterweight title, so his record now 15-0, and McNess 10-2, unfortunately for him. He's better than his record suggests, though, it has to be said. Also on this bill, we saw Neslan Mercado move to 15-0. He successfully he successfully won the fight. It wasn't a defence of his title. The title was actually vacant. It was the WBA International Super Bantamweight title, so Mercado now has that belt. It was a split decision over 10 rounds against Fadili Majiha, who was 23-10 with 4 draws. Now, Mercado, in my eyes, I wasn't really scoring it, but I felt he was quite fortunate to get the decision. Like I say, it was a split decision over 10 rounds. Mercado was actually down in the first round himself. So, when you look at that, to go down in the first round, pick yourself up and then win on points, it can be done. But from what I saw, I think Majiha was actually fighting pretty well. And like I say, I wasn't actually scoring it, so I can't say it was a wrong decision, but it seemed a little bit like the home fighter got a little bit fortunate for me. Now the main event. Sonny Edwards, 8-0, successfully defended his WBO European Super Flyweight title. He's now 9-0, a unanimous decision over 10 rounds against Ryan Farag, who was 19-3. And like I say, those 3 losses were European level, and then to 2 guys that went on to become world champions. So no shame in his losses whatsoever. But what we saw from Sonny Edwards, I mean, the skill was unbelievable. Beautiful movement. His hands were down. He had that spiteful, quick jab. He was dancing around in there. He was flashy. He was good on the eye. Farag looked dazzled, to be honest. Sonny Edwards was switching stances. He just looked leagues and leagues above Farag. He was too sharp. He was literally as sharp as a kitchen knife. And, the way he was, not just all of what I've said there, but the way he was picking his shots as well was so unbelievable. Like, he was throwing the right shots at the very right second. He was too quick. Like I say, great feet, and he's a horrible fighter to face for anyone, really, domestically. And Sonny had never gone past 6 rounds, which is a thing that we need to include here. he still had the spring in his step right to the final bell, which was after 10 rounds. A unanimous decision for Sonny Edwards there. A complete shutout. An unbelievable performance there, Umar.
Yeah, I think everyone was in shock. You got to remember, Sonny hasn't, obviously, bar Friday night, hasn't faced really one of note yet. He's the first to admit it. So going into it, it was fairly even on paper. Obviously, Sonny, the sort of prospect coming up, but Ryan had been in some massive fights, including likes of Burnett, where he told me he felt he held his own. Obviously, in European title fights as well. So there was a lot of question marks around Sonny going into it with an experienced guy like Ryan, but he just dominated the whole thing. Everyone that I spoke to, everyone who saw it live on Box Nation or at your call was really impressed. MCK guys were really impressed as well. And yeah, as I said, we knew Sonny had something about him, but we needed to see it over a long sort of course of rounds because, as you said, he'd never been past 6 before and against a good name. And that's what he done and sent a real statement out to anyone at flyweight. And he wants that Paddy Barnes fight next. In fact, in his post-fight interview, he said Paddy's on 22nd December on the Frampton Morrison bill. And he said to Frank Warren he'd be happy to step in on that date. So interesting to see what happens next with Sonny.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Just to go back a little bit there, you said he's ready for anyone at flyweight. He's campaigning at Superfly. That's what I just correct you on that. I know it's a little bit confusing because you got Charlie and him kind of both varying, between fly and Superfly. So just clear that one up if anyone is confused. Moving out now to the Arena Armić in Sofia, Bulgaria. Couple fights to mention here. We had Savannah Marshall move to 4-0, a unanimous decision over 10 2-minute rounds. She also picked up the vacant, now it's no longer vacant of course, but it's the WBA Intercontinental Female Middleweight title. But yeah, Savannah Marshall took the O of Yanina Orozco, who is now 4-1, unfortunately for her. Savannah Marshall, like I say, perfect record, 4-0. And just to mention the final fight of the undercard before we get onto the main event here, we saw the brother of Kubrat Pulev, his name Tavel Pulev. He successfully moved to 12-0, a knockout in the second round against Leonardo Bruzezi, who now has a record of 19-6. Now I'm going to just pull out my infamous measuring stick here and say that this guy here, Bruzezi, he got stopped in 5 rounds against Krzysztof Glowacki, who we know is a very, very good fighter at cruiserweight, obviously a former WBO world champion, and Tavel Pulev did it in 2 rounds, whereas it took Glowacki 5 rounds. So a little bit of a comparison that you can or cannot make there. It's down to you. This one was also for the vacant EBU European Union cruiserweight title, so that belt now belongs to Tavel Pulev. Good for him. He's actually aged 35, almost 36. But the main event, his older brother Kubrat Pulev, a man that is aged 37, he took on our very own Hughie Fury, still a baby, 24 years of age. Obviously Pulev 25-1 and Hughie Fury 21-1. It ended up being a unanimous decision over 12 rounds in favour of Pulev, the home fighter. One scorecard, the very closest scorecard, had it 7 rounds to 5. The other 2 scorecards a little bit wider than that. I think one of them was 10-2 and the other one I believe was 9-3. So it seemed like, quite a clear win for Pulev when you look at the scorecards. Now, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to watch it back, Umar, but I haven't. I know that we were kind of keeping one eye on it during the card on Saturday night. But did you get a chance to watch it back at all? Did the right man win?
Yeah, obviously we was at the Matchroom show, so we couldn't watch it live. But yeah, I have watched it back on YouTube. Obviously, it goes without saying the cut played a huge factor. Not saying Hughie would have come out on top if he didn't get the cut, but it did come into play because it was early on. And I think it was said in the post-fight interview with Coogan, where Peter was talking to Coogan, he said he had cut in sparring about 3 or 4 weeks before the fight with Martin Bacoli. The cut played a role, but the right man won definitely in Pulev. He was the better man on the night. Both Peter and Hughie came out and said that, which is the right thing to do. They're saying they're not making any excuses. but they did obviously mention the cut because it should get mentioned. And it's a bit of a worry for Huey because it's opened up before and it's opened up again in Bulgaria on Saturday night. So, that he's only 24 years old. So, if that carries on, that is obviously a concern. But yeah, Pulev was the better man, and I'm sure he will be back. He's only 24, as I said. He's had a brilliant amateur career. He's already been in there with Parker and Pulev, and a lot of people thought he beat Parker and destroyed Sam Sexton. So it's going to be tough for him to come back, but I'm sure he will.
Yeah, still certainly young enough to do so. I think the cut came in the third round, so yeah, it was early. I've heard, again, I haven't had a chance to actually watch it back, but just in a nutshell, I heard that he badly hurt Pulev in the 8th round, was it? Was it as bad as what I've read, Umar?
No, what you've been told or read is correct. In the 8th round, he did rock Pulev. It was really the only genuine success he had in the fight. But yeah, he did sort of stun Pulev for a bit. And just want to mention the first couple of rounds, Huey was doing really well before the cut came. He looked in the fight, whereas after the cut, he was never really in it. But yeah, 8th round, he did stun Kubrat Pulev.
Yeah, it's a real shame, but I just don't really want people to get on Huey's back because, he's still young. I could sit here and take a moment to go and check some facts or whatever, but I don't really have the time. But I just think that, he's 24 years of age. I mean, he's took on a world level fighter in Pulev. He's took on a world champion at the time in Joseph Parker. Where was Tyson Fury or even Anthony Joshua fighting when they were 24 years of age? They certainly wasn't fighting these type of guys. So there's still enough time for Huey Fury to turn it round. There's no shame in losing to the two guys he lost to. Again, I do not think he lost the Parker fight, and this fight here was simply to a world-class guy. I've said it for years and years. A lot of people don't think that Pulev's that good. I don't know why they don't think that. I mean, look at when he beat Derek Chisora, which, in my opinion, it was completely one-sided. Like, I remember putting money on that fight for him to win on points, and he did. And that's a little bit of a measuring stick. Aside from that, yeah, he has got that blemish to Vladimir Klitschko, a prime version, by the way, of Vladimir Klitschko. So no real shame in that. I mean, he's a class fighter. I'd love to see him in with Povetkin. I've said it for years. I've always wanted to see those two guys fight, Pulev and Povetkin. It'll probably never happen, but, Pulev is still a very, very good fighter. Despite being 37 years of age, he gives anyone a real good fight, and that's including Joshua, by the way. I will just mention that we all went with Fury to win on points on the prediction league, so we all lost that one. Going back to the York Hall show just for a second there, I picked Edwards to win on points, which did happen. Ayaz went with Edwards on points, so he got a point there as well. And the listeners actually went with Edwards by knockout, which looked like it could happen at one point, but it didn't happen. So 1 point for me, 1 point for Ayaz there. But yeah, getting back to it, once again, I just hope that people don't get on Huey's back because there's a lot of time for him to turn things around, and I believe he will. He's a talent. He really is a real talent, and like I said, there's many, many, many big fights for him. I'd love to see him fight. In fact, let's just spend a second here, Umar, if you don't mind. Who would you like to see Huey in with next? Because we don't want to see another drop down to British level. I know that the fight just was there at the right time, and he beat Sam Sexton, he knocked him out, he took the British title, but we don't really want to see another one of those. I don't think they will do that. I'd like to see him in, if I had to say so, I'd love to see him fight Chisora next.
Huey Fury Chisora would be good, but realistically, I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
Yeah, Huey, who would you... I mean, you've got so many good heavyweights out there, like Dubois, Gorman, but obviously I don't think they'll be stepping in with Huey Fury next. Yeah, it's a tough one, really. Because he fought Joseph Parker and Pulev, so how many levels down do you want to drop? What do you think on that?
I think he's got to fight someone who's established but has probably seen better days, and that's why I say someone like a Chisora, because I think that, I know that he's coming off a fantastic win over Takam, which is arguably the best win of his career, but, he wasn't winning that fight at all until he landed that mega punch and jumped all over him. He was losing that fight, and it was pretty clear to me that he wasn't really on that level, but he did get the win. I'm not taking that away from him. Brilliant to him. He now deserves a big fight, whether you like it or not. But I just think he's the type of guy. If it's not him,
what about Pricey?
Pricey, yeah, possibly. Again, I just think that, do you know what, that's actually a shout. That is a shout. Yeah, that is a shout. I don't mind that one. If we're going international, then I would even say someone like a Gerald Washington. I think even someone like that, someone that, like I say, has been at the level, has fought for a world title, obviously didn't win. Someone like that who's a bit established. I'd like to see him in with someone like that, who I think he'd win quite comfortably against, by the way. But yeah, him against Chisora, again, is not a fight that's going to happen next, certainly, but I think he's got a horrific style for Chisora. But yeah, leaving that alone, we'll be here all night talking about that. Moving out now to Germany. One fight to mention at the Stad Hall, we saw Dominic Bozell move to 28-1, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Enrico Colin, former opponent of Artur Beterbiev. So like I said, 12th round unanimous decision there. Bozell still the EBU European light heavyweight champion. I'd love to see Anthony Yard in that mix. I've said that one before. I expected him to win on points. I think I said that last week. We also saw in Spain at the Polideportivo in Fernando Martin. We saw Mark Vidal, the guy I was talking about, 11-1 with 5 damn draws. He got in there with Kiko Martinez, former world champion. As we expected, Martinez pulled off the win unanimously over 12 rounds. So Martinez, once again, he's back in, in that kind of top level, whether you like it or not. He's the new EBU European featherweight champion, the proper European title there. So his record, 39 wins, 8 losses and 2 draws. Will his 40th win be any higher than European level? Perhaps not, but it is what it is. Moving over now to one card that actually took place in Lancashire, in United Kingdom. We saw just a humongous upset, actually, that I'm going to mention. I wasn't really going to mention this card, and I probably didn't mention it. In fact, I didn't mention it last week, but I've got to mention this. Luke Blackledge, Umar, I don't know if you've heard about this. His record, 24-5 with 2 draws going in. Obviously a former opponent of Rocky Fielding, former opponent of Zach Parker, former opponent of Callum Smith. He got in there with Anthony Fox, who was 5-12 with 4 draws, and he lost. I mean, he didn't even win a round. A 6-round points win in favour of the journeyman Anthony Fox. I'm not quite sure what's happened with Luke Blackledge, because at one stage he was a decent fighter, and he's only really lost. I say he's lost 5 fights before this night. 1 to Callum Smith, 1 to Zach Parker, who I think is a real talent, 1 to Rocky Fielding. So 2 of those guys I've mentioned are world champions as we speak. The other 2 losses, I can't remember who they were to, but I don't think they were like disgraceful losses. And he now loses against a guy who he was obviously expected to beat in his sleep even. Just to go back, his losses were to Lalenga Mock, which, even though he's aged, it was a points loss, a close-ish fight. And then the other loss was to Eric Skoglund, former opponent of George Groves. So good level that he's actually mixed with, and he's won obviously a fair amount of fights at decent level. And then here we go, he loses on points to a guy who's a journeyman. So it just goes to show anything can happen in boxing. Moving out now to the Copper Box Arena, another fight that we were at, Umar. Obviously 2 nights in a row that you had the pleasure of spending with me. Many people would love to say that. Many ladies, no, I'm joking, none. George Fox, the son of Don Charles, he moved to 2-0, a points win over 4 rounds against Igor Mihaljevic, whose record is now 5-13. Also, we saw Craig Richards move to 13-1, a TKO in the second round against Michael Ludwiczak, who's now 16-9. Craig Richards looked pretty good, to be honest. A lovely finish. He the guy threw a right hand and he took a step back, then stepped back in with his right hand over the top. So it was like a counter punch, overhand right. Beautiful. Really was. You don't see that often. That's like the sexiest punch that anyone can throw. And he stopped his man there with that. Also, we saw Reece Bellotti move to 13-1. He bounced back successfully after losing to Ryan Doyle. A points win over 6 rounds against his opponent, Brian Marina. Martin J. Ward moved to 20-1 with 2 draws, a KO in the second round against Mohamed Kambuluta, who's now 18-5. Felix Cash moved to double figures, 10-0. He successfully picked up the WBC International Silver Middleweight title, so a decent little strap for him there. His first belt that he's ever fought for, and he's won it unanimously over 10 rounds against Stephen Danyo, who was actually 14-1 with 3 draws. I think it was a shutout as well, so a good win there for Felix Cash. Now getting on to the big 4 fights in my eyes. Isaac Chamberlain 9-1 took on Luke Watkins 13-1. Both men, like I said last week, are coming off that loss to Lawrence Okoli. It's a tough place we thought for the loser to go to. Whoever the loser would be, it'd be a tough place to come back, a tough road to come back, and the winner, of course, would hopefully go on to big things. We had Luke Watkins on the show last week. He was very, very confident. I did ask, what would happen should he lose, and he didn't even really want to think about that. He was very confident, and unfortunately for him, he came up short. A points win over 10 rounds for Isaac Chamberlain, and it was completely drama-filled, a fantastic 12th round where Isaac Chamberlain dropped Luke Watkins, and mathematically, or quite factually, he needed that knockdown in order to flip the table and be ahead on points. So that knockdown secured him the win. Without that knockdown, he was not going to win that fight, which is quite bizarre, because for me, I thought he was probably 2 up going into that last round, something like that. But a fantastic fight for both men there, Umar. And like we say, the loser goes in a bit of a hard position, but to be honest, because the fight was such a good one, I don't think it's as hard as we thought it may have been for the loser in this one.
Well, yeah, as you said, the last round, that was probably one of the best last rounds I've seen in a long, long time anyways. Drama filled, as you said. Scorecard wise, I thought it was close. I mean, Waddy Camacho, who I interviewed as they were reading out the scorecards, actually had Luke Watkins still up after that knockdown. Wow. And a lot of people did have Watkins winning the fight until that knockdown. Isaac Chamberlain, superb to sort of stick in there in the middle round, because Watkins was really getting a hold of it, I thought, but then he came back really well. And obviously that last punch, one of the last punches in the fight, as you said, made all the difference. But credit to both men. I thought they put on a great display. Credit actually for taking the fight, because, both of them could have easily said, we'll have a couple of sort of comeback fights, if you like, after the Okoli loss, but they jumped straight back in, and afterwards they were both really class as well. I, in fact, put up a video of Watkins and Paddy congratulating Angel Fernandez and Isaac Chamberlain afterwards in the changing room. Luke Watkins is a class act. I know you know him well, Joey. I'm sure you'll agree. An absolute credit to the sport, the way he carries himself and the way he fights as well, because put on a really good fight for us. But yeah, Isaac is right back up in the mix. You'd have to say, obviously, Okoli's number 1 in Britain, and then you'd have to probably still say Matty Askin's number 2. But Isaac Chamberlain is now 3, and he wants that Okoli rematch, obviously down the line. Obviously, firstly to sort of right the wrong, and secondly to show that it can be a more entertaining fight with Lawrence. And I hope we do see that, because I think they can both put on a good fight. There's a bit of, obviously, edge as well between the two. And, Isaac under Angel Fernandez for his first fight, and Jorge Rubio did really well.
Yeah, I just want to quickly whiz through the fight, from my point of view. I think the first round was an Isaac Chamberlain round. I think both men actually had their moments. I was very surprised to see Chamberlain so aggressive in that first round. That was very surprising, especially, like I say, so early on. Isaac was going to work with his uppercuts as early as that first round. Nothing was really phasing Watkins in terms of being hurt or anything at that point. The second round I had pretty close. I still actually gave it to Chamberlain just by a thread. Luke wasn't outclassed or anything like that, but Chamberlain just landed the much more eye-catching shots. Isaac had a lot of variety in his work. Watkins was a bit too easy to read, I think, a bit predictable for Isaac. In the third round, that is when I gave Watkins his first round. A very good start to the round for him. which was actually the case in the first 2 rounds, if I'm being completely honest. He did start both of the rounds before that pretty well, but Isaac took over in those 2 rounds there. But Isaac in this round did actually come back into the round once again, but I still felt Watkins did enough to win it. He was starting to actually find his range with his shots as well for the first time. In the 4th round, it was a clear Chamberlain round. He was starting to go to work on Watkins. He even started winding his punches up and getting a bit flashy. The crowd were roaring as well in that 4th round. Watkins looked a little bit out of his depth actually for the first time. A little bit like he was kind of running out of ideas. In the 5th round, Isaac for me won that round also. It wasn't the best round of the fight at all by any means. It was quite a lackluster round, not much clean landed really by either man, but Watkins was starting to look very tired at that point. In the 6th round, I had it 4-2 in favour of Chamberlain. Watkins actually won that round there for me. Isaac slowed down, or he was either pacing himself or something, because he didn't really look the Isaac that we'd seen in the previous 5 rounds. But good work from Watkins in that round, and I felt that he actually needed the encouragement there, so good stuff for him. The 7th round was a very, very close round. A beautiful flurry by Watkins at the start of the round, but Chamberlain came back into it himself over the latter part of that round, so very tough to score for that one. I actually thought it was probably a 10-10. In the 8th round, Chamberlain, his punch output really dropped quite noticeably. I'm not quite sure why. He still did seem to have the spring in his step, but it just wasn't coming together with his hands. He didn't seem like he was too tired, but he just wasn't really throwing enough for me at that point. He was giving too many chances to Watkins to get back into the fight, and for me that was a Watkins round. Chamberlain did actually have some good moments late on in that 8th, but still not enough to win that round. In the 9th round, again, it was another 10-10 for me. It was another close round. Chamberlain wasn't really putting his punches together at all. He was throwing too many singular shots, but his body language was confident. It was positive. He was also showboating, which I was hoping didn't really give the judges the impression that, he was in total control, because he wasn't. And again, it was arguably a Watkins round, but for me it was a 10-10. I say the judges, I think it was just the referee who scored this fight, if I'm not mistaken. It was. And then into the 12th round, the 10th round, the final round, I had Chamberlain 1 up going into that last round. And, it was an unbelievable round. Like I said, both men hurt each other. A great end to what had been an epic fight. Watkins took a knee just as the referee looked like he was going to jump in. So thank God he did take that knee, because taking the knee helped him survive the round, in my opinion. But a big 10-8 round that on my card potentially could have cost him the fight, because like I say, it was very close. I had it. I had Chamberlain 1 round up, but again, I did score 2 10-10s that could have gone either way during the fight. But yeah, for me, even with the with the knockdown, that completely secured it, and I had him by 3 points. So I was quite surprised to hear that the referee had Chamberlain by 1 point. So literally, if he wouldn't have got the knockdown, he wouldn't have won the fight. If he would have won the round, then it would have been a draw, and of course if he lost the round, then he would have lost by 2 points. So that was quite surprising. 97-94 on my card for Chamberlain after 10. Credit to him, credit to the pair of them. It was a fantastic fight. For me, I'm not really a big fan of rematches, Umar. I know that this one, actually, I probably would welcome. But just generally speaking, I'm not the massive or the biggest fan of rematches. So for me, I would not mind Watkins fighting Camacho. And I wouldn't mind Chamberlain moving on to someone like a Matty Askin. What's the best thing to do? Those fights, or perhaps someone else, or the rematch? I know that obviously Camacho's got his hands full with Arthur and Iqbal, but aside from that, it'd be a great fight.
I think Isaac Chamberlain, Matty Askin is the natural fight to make, to see who's number 2 in Britain at the moment, and then the winner possibly get the rematch with a Coley, depending on what Coley's planning to do. As you say, Camacho's got his rematch with Arthur and Iqbal. I think that's 2 weeks away now. So he's tied up. But I'd like to see Chamberlain v Matty Askin to see who is number 2 in Britain. I don't know if you'd want to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Like I say, I suggested it, didn't I? But
true.
But no, it's a weird one. I don't want to go off in a different direction, but like a Coley, in our eyes, or certainly in your eyes, because you kind of said so. You've got Okolie as the number one in Britain. He obviously is the British champion. Underneath him, you've got Matty Askin, who he beat. And then just after that, you've got Chamberlain and Watkins, who he's also beat. So it's like the rematches, I don't think anyone wants to really see the rematches. I think the Askin one, there was obviously a little bit of controversy due to the points being took off and all that, but it wasn't a pretty fight. I don't think anyone really wants to see that rematch. They don't want to see a Coley fight Chamberlain again, I don't think. And, the Watkins fight wasn't really that close because he banged him out, I think, in about 3 rounds. So, he's either going to fight some real... I don't want to be disrespectful, but he's going to fight guys that are like 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th to get his 3 defences to win it outright. Or does he move straight onto European level? It's just difficult to say, really, because, even though he made it to the Olympics, he didn't really have a extensive amateur career. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one for Eddie Hearn. But again, that's his job. It's not mine. Moving up the bill once again. So like I say, Chamberlain now 10-1. Luke the Duke Watkins 13-2. But moving up once again, Ted Cheeseman fought for the vacant British super welterweight title against Asinia Byfield 14-1. And Ted Cheeseman, like I say, 14-0. A unanimous decision over 12 rounds in favour of Cheeseman. It was weird because the first round was a clear Asinia Byfield round. He absolutely boxed circles around Cheeseman. He was looking good from his southpaw stance. He was jabbing Cheeseman around. Cheeseman was getting through with 1 or 2 shots at most, but a clear Byfield round. And that, for me, looked like, whoa, this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be pretty competitive. This is going to be very tricky for Cheeseman. This could even be quite frustrating for Cheeseman. Well, he must have just gone back to his corner and thought, nope, that's not happening again. And for me, he won every single round after that. In the second round, I felt that Cheeseman was already finding his range very quickly. He looked a much heavier-handed fighter. He was going to the body of Byfield. Byfield was still getting off with his skillful attacks, but not putting a dent in Cheeseman at all. The tide was turning already there. A Cheeseman round, a very big round for him as well. In the third round, a good round. Both men having their moments. Byfield jabbing, Cheeseman landing big hooks. But again, I felt Cheeseman did enough. The fourth round, Cheeseman really starting to get through with his shots. He was pinning Byfield on the ropes. I just couldn't see it going the distance at that point, actually, because he was really starting to land his shots all too often. And Byfield isn't really the easiest target to hit, but it seemed like Cheeseman wasn't having much trouble finding his man. Cheeseman just looked too big and strong. I wasn't sure if he'd be able to keep up the pace after those 4 rounds, because it was starting to be quite a fast-paced fight, or a high-paced fight, I should say. Going into the 5th round, a 10-8 round, a delayed reaction from a straight right hand, followed by 1 or 2 more kind of pushing shots. But the big right hand was the one that hurt Byfield, I think, and he went down. He got back up. He didn't look too hurt, to his credit, but a massive round there for Ted Cheeseman. Byfield just could not seem to keep Cheeseman away. He couldn't seem to stop him from walking forward. He just didn't have the power to keep Ted off of him. Ted had no respect whatsoever, just walking forward, didn't care about what was coming at him. Going into the 6th round, again, I think that Ted was just too rugged and tough. He was too solid. He's very fit as well, which I've said before. Very strong, very fit. He was able to keep up the pace. He seemed like he was quite comfortable in there, really. Byfield, again, just couldn't stop him from coming forward. Another clear Cheeseman round. The 7th round, a good round. Still Cheeseman won the round, but Byfield was having a fairly good round. He had a few decent moments. One shot, I think it was a straight left, seemed to actually rock Cheeseman. I might be overstating it a tiny bit, but a good shot there from Byfield. It seemed to certainly trouble Cheeseman, but Byfield was showing a second wind at that point, I felt. And then in the 8th round, Byfield had to really dig deep and bite down on the gum shield. He did find a few eye-catching shots, but Cheeseman was being caught only a few times really coming in. But again, I just felt that Cheeseman had another good round, but a few interesting moments there. And then, the 9th round, Byfield had nothing left in his shots at all. His power really diminished, any power that he did have. Cheeseman, I think, had a bloodied nose as well at that point, though. But another Cheeseman round. Then in the 10th round, it's pretty much more of the same. In the 11th round, all Cheeseman. Byfield late on seemed to stun Cheeseman a little bit, and he had him in some bother, but the bell went in a good time, or at a good time for Cheeseman. And then in the 12th round, it was a great end to a great fight. Once again, this is what happens, Umar, when we see a 50-50 fight get made. Just like the Watkins and Chamberlain fight, two true 50-50s. Both of those fights that we mentioned there both had fantastic finishes in the 12th round. But yeah, for me, it was a very wide scorecard for Cheeseman. I actually had it 119-108, I believe. So a very dominating performance when you actually look at it on paper.
Yeah, it was whether, Byfield could offer anything back in terms of power. Because I think we all knew Ted was going to try and walk him down, and that's what exactly what he did. As you say, that first round, Byfield looked really sharp. I didn't actually see it live because I was uploading stuff, but I've seen it back on highlights, and Byfield looked really good, and I thought, right, we've got a real fight on our hands here. But Ted just seemed to walk through him, and I think Byfield can definitely come back. Styles make fights. I know it's an old cliche, but it is true. And Byfield can give a lot of problems to a lot of fighters at 154. But yeah, well done to Ted becoming the British champ. And, you got the likes of Fowler, Fitzgerald, I think I'm going to fight. And I'd like to see the winner of that fight Ted.
Yeah, and like you say, I believe that Asinia can come again. Him and Michael McKinson be a real chess match. Moving up the bill once again, we saw Ryan Doyle 17-2 with one draw, put his Commonwealth featherweight title on the line against 21-0 Jordan Gill, a product of the Coldwell Boxing Gym. A TKO in the 7th round though for Jordan Gill, which completely shocked me actually. Not when I was watching the fight, because Gill was fantastic, but I actually thought that Doyle would find another knockout here. He was coming off a nice little bit of momentum, but yeah, for me, Gill was just too fit for Doyle really. He hurt Doyle a few times, he dropped him once. He answered some questions himself by taking a big shot or two. He seemed like he had a good beard on him. Good movement from Gill, spiteful puncher. A lot of variety in his work. He's now shown for me that he is actually the real deal, and a fair stoppage for him. Doyle was a brave man. I think some people were arguing with the stoppage. I think Doyle was a bit upset with it himself, because I think he has got great recovery skills. But yeah, it was just all Gill. There's a few guys that I'd like to see Gill fight. I'm not quite sure Reece Bellotti is the guy though, but I wouldn't really complain about that fight. I think that'd be quite a decent fight stylistically. But yeah, Jordan Gill, the new Commonwealth featherweight champion, 22-0 now. Like I say, many great fights for him round the corner. And now the main event. John Ryder, 26-4, took on Andrei Sorokin, 15-0. Obviously, Sorokin had a kickboxer background. He had 4 knockouts from his 15 wins. And John Ryder, we all thought, would hopefully put the first blemish on his resume, and he certainly did. A 7th round knockout for John Ryder. Fantastic for him. A few rocky moments, in the early part of the fight. Obviously, Ryder was cut. I think it was a clash of heads, if I'm not mistaken, but it was quite a bad cut. So he had to weather a bit of a storm there, but he did find these shots and he did stop his man, and I'm absolutely over the moon for him. It's another tricky opponent placed in front of John Ryder, a guy who I think he was actually a southpaw, but he came out in orthodox or something like that. He changed his stance up, and I think he was a little bit better than what John Ryder thought he would be, but ultimately the knockout came and it was in favour of Ryder, so I'm over the moon for him. Just before we move on from that card there, is there anything that you just want to chuck in for a little note there on Ryder, or perhaps Jordan Gill? Anyone?
Yeah, let's start with Jordan. Really impressed. I think it was clear to see in his previous fights that he was a talent in terms of skill level, but he took some big digs off Ryan Doyle, who obviously stopped Bellotti last time out, and it's clear to see he has a lot of power as well. So when you add them 3 things in, the skill level, the power, and the chin, Jordan's going to go a long way. And then when I interviewed him after, I don't think in the 7 months I've been working with IFL, I've seen someone so happy to win. He was nearly in tears in the post-fight interview, but he was over the moon, and he should be, becoming Commonwealth champ. again, in what people said was a 50-50 fight. And obviously Ryan was going in as champ, so well done to Jordan Gill. And John Ryder did what he had to do. Great to get a stoppage as well. Lovely body shot. Sorokin, I had no idea really what he was going to present as a challenge, but he looked tricky and awkward early on. But John Ryder sort of, that experience he's got now, I think, did well for him. And now he's got a massive opportunity at Callum Smith's belt. And there's no actually clarification whether it's going to be for the super or regular belt that he's mandatory for. Initially, it was for the super belt, which is obviously held by Smith. But there is a chance he could be fighting the winner of Fielding Canelo. So we could end up seeing, if Canelo come through, that Ryder Canelo, which would be something, wouldn't it?
It really, really would. Getting back onto the predictions, like I say, I obviously gained the point on the Edwards fight. So did Ayaz. The listeners didn't. But talking about this little card here at the Copper Box, I gained the point with Ryder by knockout. So did the listeners. Ayaz didn't. Doyle by knockout, I went with. That obviously didn't happen. Ayaz went with Gill on points. That didn't happen. And the listeners went with Doyle by knockout. So no one gained one there. Cheeseman on points I went with, so did the listeners, and so did Ayaz, so we all gain a point there. And then Chamberlain on points I went with, so did the listeners, but Ayaz went with Chamberlain by knockout, which almost happened actually, but obviously he didn't gain a point there. So we will get on to the other fights which we predicted on. But that's it for the Copper Box. Moving over now to the Newport Centre in Wales, United Kingdom. We will be speaking to a man that fought on this bill. Let's mention his fight here. Andrew Selby moved to 11-0, a TKO in the second round against Adam Yahya, whose record is now 18-4 with one draw. He became the first man, Andrew Selby, to stop Yahya, so a good little win for him. Obviously he's been out the ring for just over a year, which is a very sad thing because Andrew Selby is one of the most talented boxers in Britain, hands down, and is certainly one of my favourite fighters to watch. Talking of huge upsets, we mentioned one earlier when Luke Blackledge lost. There was a shocking upset here. An Olympic silver medalist, Umar, by the name of Fred Evans, a man that's obviously Welsh, based in Wales. He was 5-0 and he took on Ryan Toms, a guy who's not really a journeyman, but he's got 15 wins, 15 losses and 3 draws. And this fight is the time where he's actually turned his record into a winning record. He's now got more wins than losses. A knockout in the second round. Ryan Toms was able to TKO the undefeated former Olympic silver medalist Fred Evans, 2012 Olympics I believe it was when he won the silver. And Evans was down twice in that second round, so that is certainly upset of the weekend to say the least. Moving over now to the Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana, USA. We've got a couple fights to mention here, I believe. We saw Subriel Matias, 11-0. He took on a guy called Fernando Salcedo, who was 62-8 with 3 draws. So a guy who's 62-8 with 3 draws, taking on a guy who's 11-0. Anyway, the guy with 62 wins, Salcedo, he was actually down twice in the first round, and then his corner got up on the ring apron and managed to get him disqualified. So a disqualification win in the first round for Subriel Matias, still undefeated, 12-0 now. Moving up the bill once again, Ivan Baranchik, 18-0, took on Anthony, I think his nickname's Can You Dig It, Yijit. 21-0 with 1 draw. This one was for the vacant IBF World Super Lightweight title. I think the winner of this fight, obviously it was Baranchik, I should mention. He will now take on the winner of... Yeah, he takes on the winner of Josh Taylor and Ryan Martin. That's right there. So yeah, both men were undefeated, like I say, going into this contest. Yijit's left eye was horrific, and that was the reason that the fight got stopped. A 7th round retirement. His eye was completely shut, and the doctor advised the referee to stop the fight. So a retirement there after 7 rounds. Very disgusting, that eye. It reminded me a little bit of Kevin Mitchell against Jorge Linares a few years back. So yeah, good win there for Baranchik. And moving up to the main event here, Regis Prograis 22-0 put his WBC Diamond Super Lightweight title on the line. No mention of his WBC interim belt. I'm not quite sure what's going on there or what the situation is. Very, very bad actually that Prograis, the day before the fight, I think when he was at the weigh-in or something like that, someone broke into his hotel room and stole his belts, his money, his jewellery, his clothing, everything like that. So I hope that situation gets sorted, because that's pretty disgusting, to be honest. But yeah, Prograis got in there with all those distractions at the back of his mind, I'm guessing. He took on our very own Terry Flanagan 33-1. It ended up being a unanimous decision over 12 rounds. Flanagan was down in the 8th round though. They said after the fight that it's the first time that Terry Flanagan has been down, which is completely incorrect. He was also down once before against another fighter whose name has evaded me on this occasion. But yeah, the fight itself, let me just quickly run through it here. A very good first round, very fast-paced round. Flanagan was coming forward, which I was quite surprised to see. The pair were both meeting in the centre of the ring. They were both boxing. Both men were trying little tricks here and there. Both men simply started the round well and the fight well, and it was a close round, but I actually gave it to Flanagan. The second round I gave to Prograis. I think that Flanagan didn't really throw too much. Prograis was starting to dominate with his jab. Prograis was showing good head movement as well, which was quite good to see. A very interesting and quite surprising first 2 rounds there. So I had it 1-1. Going into the third round, that was a Prograis round for me. Very surprised at how much of a technical encounter that this fight had actually become at that point. Wasn't expecting this kind of fight at all. Prograis was showing Flanagan respect in there. It was a very good fight after those first 3 rounds. It was a very good fight in total, to be honest. In the 4th round, another round for Prograis, just about doing enough. Terry would double up with his jabs and step in with the backhand, but that, by the time he threw that backhand, Prograis would usually move away from the power punch. Prograis just seemed to be a step ahead. 3-1 to Prograis. Going into the 5th round, very close round, possibly I'd even edge it to Flanagan. Flanagan countered Prograis once or twice with some lovely shots that seemed to get Prograis' attention. Wouldn't go as far to say as they hurt him or anything, so 3-2 after 5. Going into the 6th round, a Prograis round for me once again. I was very surprised to see such excellent head movement from him. His reflexes were brilliant. His low guard was excellent. The way he was, relying on reflexes with the low guard, it was all just working so well for him. He still wasn't being nailed by Flanagan, who I think had many opportunities to do so, but like I say, defensively, Prograis showed us a lot here. Flanagan kept the high guard to certainly watch out for the overhand left from Prograis. I still couldn't believe how technical the fight was, but yeah, 4-2 to Prograis after 6, and then going into the second half of the fight, the 7th round, it was a bit of a nothing round, really. I think it could have even been a 10-10, but if I had to give it to someone, it would have to be Flanagan, I think. I don't know, maybe a 10-10 if I had to. I don't know, I'd probably get shot in the head if someone was holding a gun to my head. It was that close. In the 8th round, a counter left hook put Flanagan down. It was actually a jab that Flanagan threw, and Regis slipped it with a little bit of head movement to the side, and boom, he come over the top with a left hook, and Flanagan also had a cut eye in that round, so a 10-8 round, a big round there in the 8th round. Flanagan did get back up, and he actually fought okay, but the confidence certainly grew in Prograis, and he was starting to showboat. I had Prograis 4 points up going into the 9th round, so Flanagan would have needed to win every round just for a draw on my card. In the 9th round, Flanagan bounced back well, actually. I'm not quite sure he won the round, but it was close. He didn't seem to have any visible after effects from that knockdown in the 8th round. In the 10th round, another Prograis round for me, really. And the 11th and 12th round, I didn't really score, but credit to Flanagan for actually lasting the distance. It's something I didn't think he could do, but again, he's a very tough guy. I think he's actually showed that on a few different occasions, so perhaps I didn't give him enough credit going into this fight, but yeah, credit to him, but he's in a bit of a tough spot now, Umar. Again, if you saw the fight, you can obviously say your comments, but Flanagan, since he's moved up to 140 from obviously lightweight 135, because remember, he was really killing himself to make the weight. Since he's moved up to 140, yeah, he has took on 2 undefeated guys, but he's also been served up 2 losses at the hands of these American fighters at this weight. I don't really know what he does from here. 2 losses on the bounce, and he was also the British fighter with the most wins in a row, like the longest undefeated streak of all of the current British boxers at the time, which he's obviously lost, and then lost again here.
Yeah, disappointing for Flanagan. Obviously, you said 2 losses to Maurice Hooker and Prograis. I mean, both fighters are of a very high standard when you're talking about Prograis
True.
and Maurice Hooker, especially with Prograis. I think he's favourite to win the tournament. I'm sure Josh Taylor will have something to say about that. But Flanagan, where does he go? I'm not sure. Yeah, he was before the Hooker fight. He was going to create history, but obviously that didn't go to plan. It's a tough one for Terry Flanagan. Where do you think he goes from here?
Well, unfortunately, I know that it's a fairly decent fight and all that, but at the time when they were first talking about it, it was before the Catterall O'Hara Davies fight. They were saying, "Oh, Catterall against Flanagan," and I just thought Catterall hasn't really earned it in my eyes. I like Catterall, by the way. I'm just saying I don't think he's done enough to actually earn a world title fight at that time against the guy with the longest undefeated streak, a guy that's that's won all these fights, been a world champion. I just didn't really think he deserved it. I didn't think he'd done enough, and I think Terry Flanagan actually agreed with that. And now after losing 2 fights in a row, unfortunately, it's probably Catterall. But I don't know if Catterall's world level. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the right time to make the fight or not. Because if he loses to Catterall, I just don't know what he does from there. Because that's very, very difficult. But it's only difficult because Catterall hasn't really proved himself to be on the world level yet. A win over O'Hara Davies doesn't mean that you're a future world champion, I don't think. But I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult. Fill in for here while you put me on the spot.
Yeah, Catterall. I mean, I didn't really think of that initially, because obviously in terms of Prograis and Maurice Hooker is a step down, but obviously Catterall could be a future world champion, and he's coming off a good win against O'Hara Davies, as he said. It doesn't mean he's going to go on to become a world champion, but there's potential there. So yeah, but as he said, if Flanagan takes that fight and then has his 3rd loss in a row and loses to Jack Catterall, then you're looking at the end of your career. So if you're his manager, do you advise him to do that? I don't think so. But then there might not be any other options out there other than Jack Catterall.
I'll throw one in there. I know it's not going to happen. But in a dreamland, he fights Anthony Crolla. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, Crolla's fighting on the Usyk value card as well, obviously. So if he comes through on that, then yeah, why not?
Yeah, that'd be a fight that I really would still like to see. I don't think
full domestic clash it will still do numbers. So
yeah, I don't think Terry Flanagan's done by any means. But like I say, another loss and to a guy that's not proved to be world level just yet would be very damaging. But yeah, tough one really for Terry Flanagan. But I think Prograis showed so many levels to his game there. I was quite blown away actually. Very, very pleased for him. A real nice guy. I think that's really it for that card there. Moving out now to the Madison Square Garden Theatre in New York. We have just really 1 or 2 fights to mention here. We've got Heather Hardy. She won the rematch against Shelley Vincent, who... Did you see the pictures of this, Umar? Shelley Vincent turned up to the weigh-in with a drawn-on moustache and beard. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen this actually. Where did you see this? On Twitter?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's on IFL's YouTube channel. I mean, the weigh-in between Heather Hardy and Shelley Vincent. Like, Shelley Vincent's like a... she's one of those ladies that I think is obviously quite butch. I think she likes to kind of be like the man. I think she could... I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I think she kind of likes being a tough lady. So she's drawn a moustache and beard on herself, and definitely actually looked like a man. She even had a Mohican going on. So I hope she's not offended by any of what I've said there. But yeah, she took on Heather Hardy, who was undefeated, like I say, 21-0. It was a rematch. It was a good fight as well. 10 2-minute rounds, but unanimously for Heather Hardy, who's now the new WBO World Female Featherweight Champion. That belt was vacant. It's now Heather Hardy's. Also on the bill, the main event here, really the last fight to mention of this card, Daniel Jacobs, 34-2, took on Sergei Derevianchenko, 12-0. Two former sparring partners. It ended up being a split decision over 12 rounds. Derevianchenko was down in the first, and Jacobs managed to edge it, like I say, on the scorecards. This one, of course, was for the vacant IBF World Middleweight title. Now, the fight itself, just to quickly run through as quick as I can from my point of view here. The first round was a close round, really, until the last 15 seconds, where Jacobs landed a right hook to Derevianchenko's temple as he was ducking, kind of thing. He was ducking down as he took the shot, so it's obviously... It means you're closer to the ground, you know, your legs aren't straight, it's quite easy to be knocked down from that. And yeah, it forced him to actually touch down with his gloves to stay on his feet. So it wasn't like a knockdown where he landed on his back, he just simply touched the canvas with his gloves to keep himself on balance. But yeah, an unfortunate way to lose that first round there, and obviously a 10-8 round for Jacobs. In the second round, Derevianchenko won that round, a good comeback round for him. He actually hurt Jacobs also in that round. In the third round, another good round actually, probably a Derevianchenko round, but a close one. The fourth round was another good round. Derevianchenko was winning it and then got wobbled with a big shot from Jacobs. Jacobs completely saw the blood and or sniffed the blood and completely swarmed his man, and Derevianchenko clocked Jacobs with a heavy, I think it was a counter punch if I'm not mistaken. So a good round there, but one that Derevianchenko, for me, won again. In the fifth round, I had actually given Derevianchenko every round since the unlucky knockdown in that first round, and the fifth round again was a clear Derevianchenko round for me. So you can see where I'm going with my scorecard here. I felt that the commentary from Sky was quite poor, if I'm being honest. I think that they were favouring Jacobs way too much, and Spencer Oliver, I've even written after 5 rounds, Spencer Oliver was taking the mick here with his scorecard, the way he was favouring Jacobs. In the sixth round, it was a closer round, more competitive round. I think I'd probably edge it to Jacobs actually. Very close round, like I say. The size of Jacobs compared to Derevianchenko was noticeable to anybody. Jacobs was a lot bigger in there. I had Derevianchenko up by 1, if I'm not mistaken, at this point. So that's obviously a 10-8 round, and then Jacobs winning 1. And then 4 rounds to Derevianchenko. Yeah, so having him up by 1 going into the 7th. Going into the second half of the fight, the 7th round here, very close round once again. I'd probably edge it to Jacobs. So for me at that point, it was all square on my card. And then going into the 8th round, Jacobs actually won that round for me. A really good round for him. So I had him 1 point up. Spencer Oliver announced at that point that he actually had Jacobs up by 7 points. And that was just shocking to think that there'd been 8 rounds and he had him up by 7 points. So I think he might have given Derevianchenko 1 or 2 rounds, which is shocking. In the 9th round, Jacobs won that round for sure for me. So I had him 2 points up, which looked like he was going to win it on my card at that point. And then obviously leaving the last 3 rounds, 10, 11 and 12. In the 10th round, I think Derevianchenko had a great round. I didn't actually score the round, which is bad on my part, but the Sky commentators, who I felt were really being quite biased to Jacobs, they kept shouting about how good of a round it was for Derevianchenko, so I'm guessing he probably won that round. And then in the 11th round, I didn't actually score this round either, but it was a great round. It looked to be a close round, but if I had to give it to someone just on what I watched, again, I wasn't really studying it, I was doing something else at the same time, but I was watching the odd little bit here and there in that 11th. If I gave it to Derevianchenko, then it would all be on the last round. It would be all square, so it would all be on the last round. So the last round, whoever won that would win the fight. And then in that 12th round, I gave that round to Derevianchenko. So on my unofficial scorecard, not properly scoring 2 rounds, I had Derevianchenko up by 1. Now, Julie Lederman agreed with me. That was her scorecard. She had him up by 1. And Spencer Oliver had Daniel Jacobs up by 6 rounds. Thank God he's not a judge. No one had it that wide. Even Jacobs himself didn't have it that wide. So, Yeah, poor judging there, but I'm not really surprised to see Jacobs get the win at home. I think he had a touch of luck. Like I say, a few close-ish rounds there. And to be honest, I gave some of the close rounds to Jacobs. So I think Derevianchenko probably would feel quite hard done by. Can't really blame him for that, but it is to be expected. I picked Jacobs to win this fight by knockout, so of course I got that one wrong. The listeners went with Jacobs on points, so they got a point there, and so did Ayaz. He went with that as well. So all in all, the predictions last week, I gained 4 points. Ayaz gained 3, and the listeners gained 4. So very, very interesting. I shall tally them up in at the very end of the show. But that's really it for the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part 1, the last thing to do is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated flyweight world contender. It's, of course, Mr. Andrew Selby. Andrew, welcome back on the show. We've missed you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Hey, it's always a pleasure having you on. So, Andrew, we last spoke back in September, actually, of last year. It was in the build-up to the Maximino Flores fight, a fight where you went on to win pretty comfortably. I know it's quite a long time ago now, but what did you make of your performance that night, Andrew?
It was a great build up towards it. He was a tough opponent, and but he suited my style. He worked onto some good shots, and I showcased my boxing skills.
Yeah, you certainly did. Like I said, the last real time that you were on like a major kind of UK station, so a lot of people saw you that night. Now, obviously, since then, lots and lots and lots of things have gone on. I want to start really with the fact that Christopher Rosales, a man that you fought, and aside from being dropped in the first round, you completely dominated him for the rest of the fight. You beat him on points. He's now a world champion, not just any world champion, the WBC world champion. Obviously, we know he went out to Japan. He beat the undefeated Daigo Higa, who was very feared, 15-0 with 15 knockouts, and Rosales knocked him out in the 9th round. How good of a win is that for him, Andrew?
Yeah, it's a great win. That Higa failed the weight at the time, so he was probably weak in the fight, but don't take it away from him. Now Rosales, because I've been in the ring with him, he punches very hard, and that Higa, he comes forward and so does Rosales. Rosales was just too big for him. So that's a great win for him. And he's my next target now to fight against him. I've been ordered to have a final eliminator against the Mexican number 2 contender in the winner of fight Rosales.
Okay, yeah, because like I say, your win over him now looks a much better win. Also, Rosales came back over to Britain. He took on Paddy Barnes. It was obviously his first defence of the title. Now, I actually expected Barnes to probably out-hustle him on points, but instead he got knocked out in 4 rounds. Were you surprised with that? Did you rate that win?
I knew Rosales would win because being punched by him, he hit very hard. You've got to be very, very fit in game to beat him, to be honest. And I just thought he would beat Barnes, and obviously I was right.
And the last kind of piece of negative stuff that's gone on, since we last spoke, obviously a very bad night for your brother Lee back on May 19th earlier this year, losing the world title to Josh Warrington. What did you make of his performance, Andrew, from the outside? Because it didn't look like the Lee that we know. I'm still not quite sure if he either had a very bad night or Warrington had a very good one, or a bit of both.
Well, obviously I spoke to my brother, and he's telling me he was just making a weight on him. I think it was just one fight too many, and he said he could see the shots coming, he just didn't have the energy to defend and counter. So that's why, hence why he's moved up now. He's moved up to lightweight.
Okay. And getting back onto yourself, Andrew, I myself and many others didn't really know what had actually gone on. And, we saw a tweet from you on Twitter that read something along the lines of "you don't fight anymore," and if anyone was wondering why, then to ask the British Boxing Board of Control. No one was quite sure what to make of what you said there, and I don't know what you can or can't tell us about what happened, but we know for a while, of course, you had your licence revoked. What can you tell us, Andrew, about the whole situation? Very messy.
Well, it was just a scene with a taxi driver. and that got out to the boxing board, so they suspended me, and then they just done checkups on me and stuff, and they gave my license back then after a few months, and now obviously I'll be an active fighter again now.
And just to clarify, it simply was just a verbal argument, nothing physical with this taxi driver at all.
No physical violence or nothing.
Yeah, it seems very strange. It seems like you were hard done by, but that is a thing of the past now. Andrew, while you were, without a license, where were you mentally? Did you balloon up in weight at all? Were you down? Were you depressed even? What was it like for your mental state for that period?
Well, my weight, I don't go. Well, I've never been over 9.5 stone, to be honest. Just over 9 stone, I was about. I was just, in my mind, I just thought I was retired, so I was just enjoying myself going out and stuff. And then obviously that gets brought in. I just hit the gym, even though if they weren't going to give my lessons back, I was still going to train anyway. And obviously they give my lessons back. And I watched the fight with Rosales then in Vans, and that's what really made me hungry to come back. And here I am now. I'm just literally one fight away from that shot.
Okay, interesting, man. Interesting. Now,
that's how I go.
Go on. If I cut you off, you can continue.
I spoke to my manager obviously after my fight. He's going to give me the fight news this week, so I'm up in down in December. And obviously the final eliminator is now the straight shot, so I'm just waiting on some news.
Okay, excellent. Like we mentioned there, you were cleared to box. You returned to the ring on the weekend. I know that you hoped to be fighting for the European title. I think this is the second time now that you've been hoping to fight for the title. Why hasn't that opportunity arisen for you on both occasions, Andrew?
The first time I was in camp for the fight, it was about 2-3 weeks before I was gonna go to France and fight. And then I went over on my ankle, so I was in like a cast on my ankle and that I had to pull out. And then I was meant to fight him obviously this Friday, when I boxed. In about 2 weeks before, he went and fought someone else without even telling us or pulling out. So that's that. And now I've got the final eliminator. I don't think that'll be happening.
Okay. And obviously, like we say, you ended up fighting a guy called Adam Yahaya. He was 18-3 with 1 draw. You became the first man to stop him. You did it in 2 rounds. How did it feel, Andrew? I know that obviously a lot has gone on, like I say, since you last boxed. It's been a whole year outside of the ring. How did it feel to get back in there, perhaps brush off the cobwebs, and even become the first man to stop this guy? All in all, how did it feel to get back in a ring?
It was a great feeling. I wanted it to last a bit longer than 2 rounds because I was just getting my time in the ring. I was taking my shots, but I was just way too strong and sharp. You could just see I was just about 10 levels above him, and the referee just stopped it. And obviously I've been sparring a lot of good opponents in the room now, so it's not even like I've been out the ring, to be honest.
Okay, still as sharp as ever. Now, you mentioned there, Andrew, that you're perhaps going to be fighting again in December. Is that right? I know that you've pretty much answered it, really. You're looking at hopefully fighting December, and this time it will be a world title eliminator. Will that be a final eliminator? Who's the Mexican guy? What can you tell us?
Yeah, it's definitely a final eliminator because I went to the WBC convention out in Ukraine, and I was ranked 1. And they said we order Selby to fight rank 2 for the final eliminator. And it's a Mexican. I can't remember his name, but he's ranked 2 in the WBC. He's had like 13, knocked out 10, lost 1, I think. So it's going to be a tough fight. But I'm confident in winning. I'm confident in beating Rosales too. So I'm back in the gym tomorrow, staying fit and sharp. So I'm just waiting for the news now for the date.
Okay, is that Julio Cesar Martinez? Is that it?
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Okay, and just to reiterate, he's a guy with, I think he's 11-1.
Yeah, about 11-1. Yeah.
Okay, and the one loss the one loss was actually a split decision loss on his debut over 4 rounds, which we know doesn't really mean too much. But getting back to it, obviously, Andrew, you're in a division where there's not too much to offer domestically. I know that you're kind of got you've got your eyes on really the world title level at the moment, but domestically, the guys that are out there are guys that people would like to see you in with, but it sounds like we're probably not going to get to see those fights just yet. At this stage, Andrew, I know that you held the British title. You wanted anyone in Britain to fight you. No one seemed like they wanted to step up. But is there any interest at this stage from you, against the likes of, the Edwards brothers or Paddy Barnes or any of these guys, Jay Harris?
Yeah, I fight anyone in Britain put in front of me to defend my British title. But obviously, I'm looking for the world title, so there's no point in stepping down the ladder rather than up. So, obviously, I'm concentrating on the world title, but if that doesn't happen, I'm happy defending my British title.
Okay. And did you happen to see Sonny Edwards against Ryan Farag the other night? If so, what did you make of it?
I did watch Sonny. He's a very flashy tactical fighter. Ron Farag, I obviously don't rate. It's a big step up for Sonny because obviously I think he's had like 7 professional fights or something, and he's going to be one to watch as well when he's had a few more fights.
Yes, certainly, I agree. A brilliant performance from him. And on the same card as you the other night, Andrew, obviously, Welsh amateur standout Fred Evans. He managed to get stopped by a guy who was 15-15 with a couple of draws. A humongous upset. I mean, I still can't believe it happened.
Who was that, sorry?
Fred Evans.
Oh, Fred, yeah. I actually missed the final. I've just got to the arena after his fight. So I didn't see it, but he was looking so sharp in the gym and that Fred, so we were in the same gym. But it just shows what boxing's all about. It only takes one punch to beat a guy, basically.
Yeah, for sure. It's the most unpredictable sport. I think that's why we all love it, Andrew. And finally, coming down to the last couple of questions. What is the next step with Lee? I did want to kind of clear up if he was going up 1 or 2 weight classes. You said he will be campaigning at lightweight, so he's going up 2 weight classes. Is there anything that you can tell us about his next fight, or perhaps when it's going to take place? What can you say?
I'm not sure who he'll be fighting, but I think it's in December. Just waiting for announcements, and it'll definitely be before Christmas, New Year. And it'll be a lightweight, but no opponent, so, but there will be an announcement soon.
So you may both be fighting in December then? Yeah,
it won't be the same bill, I don't think.
Okay. Busy month for you, December. Obviously, your birthday, Christmas Day, people forget as well.
Yeah, 21 again.
And just before we let you go, Andrew, just before we let you go, my friend, is there anything at all that you want to get off your chest, or anything that I perhaps haven't asked you, anything that you want to say in front of the listeners? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm on flyweight to watch out because I'm back.
Okay, listen, Andrew, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. It's great to have you back on the show. It's even better to see you back in the ring above all. Thank you for your time, and we shall catch up again very soon.
Yeah, wicked, massive.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. A couple of things to go over here. Obviously, Ayaz didn't send me the news, so I've had to use my resources and Umar's resources here to pick up the latest news. Really, no one does the news part better than Ayaz. I've called him many, many times, Umar, the Trevor McDonald of the boxing world. He's very sharp with the news. What we do have, though, is Kell Brook will be fighting on the 8th of December. Umar, what venue's that again? No opponent just yet, I believe.
No opponent officially announced yet. There are rumours of a certain Australian super welter fighting him, but nothing announced from Matchroom, so we can't take that as gospel. But it's going to be in Sheffield, so I'm guessing an arena in Sheffield. But again, no venue confirmed, but it's definitely in Sheffield, December the 8th.
One piece of news that's just come to my head right this second, actually. I know that the fight between Joe Cordina and Scott Cardle has fallen through due to an injury with Joe Cordina, so that fight's been pulled off of the Usyk Bellew undercard, and in steps Dave Allen, no opponent just yet, but he will be fighting on that bill. I think they're trying to sort an opponent for him, so some people are depends really. If you're a Dave Allen fan, then you'll be happy with that, but if you're a general boxing fan and you like good matchups, then you're probably not too pleased about it. But hopefully he's in a decent fight. Hopefully he's had enough time to get ready for a decent fight, because his last one only lasted a few seconds, didn't it, the first round? So yeah, good news for Papi de la Rhino fans. Anything else?
Anything else? A bit of a shocker, actually. Jarrett Hurd, Jason Wellborn on the Wilder Fury undercard. It's come out of nowhere.
Yeah, that is, I mean, to think that Wellborn, obviously, he won the rematch against Tommy Langford for the second time, so I don't think we're going to see a third one there, but, to be British champion, then to just completely out of nowhere take on Hurd, I mean, a little bit of a mismatch in my eyes. Mikey Garcia has decided to vacate his IBF lightweight world title. Very weird, because he hasn't vacated his WBC lightweight title, so I think Luke Campbell will probably be a bit annoyed with that, but I think it's purely just to get his mandatory off his back, Richard Comey, who I think has been shouting and screaming and doing all the right things, really, because he wants his shot at the world title, so he's just been doing all he can, even going on Twitter and calling Mikey out, saying that you're scared to sign the contract. I think Mikey just wants a bigger fight, really, so he's decided to let go of that title there, which he took from from Robert Easter, who obviously once upon a time beat Richard Comey anyway, so I don't think he had too much to worry about there with Richard Comey in my eyes. But yeah, he's vacated that belt, so he'll probably be getting a big fight instead. But interesting that he has, like I say, kept the WBC. Quite odd.
And just a bit of other news, actually, that's come to my head. A couple of things, actually. I've seen Oscar Valdez says he demands the winner of Frampton Warrington, which will be interesting to see. And also, I saw a report somewhere that Canelo, if he comes through the fielding fight, wouldn't mind having a crack at 175, which is like unbelievable considering the size of him. But yeah, he wouldn't mind going up to light heavyweight.
Okay, we'll have to see. Hopefully he doesn't get through Rocky Fielding anyway, and we won't even be having that discussion. But yeah, is that it for the news, Umar? Have we mentioned everything there?
I think that's everything covered for this week. Yeah, can't think of anything else.
Okay, we shall move on to the preview part of the show now, of course. Let's start in the York Hall Bethnal Green. This one happening this weekend here. We have topping the bill Jay Harris, the Welsh flyweight. His record 13-0. He puts his Commonwealth flyweight strap on the line against Ross Murray, who's 8-1. A good little fight there, actually. 12 rounds there. We also have Kirk Garvey, 11-1. He fights for the vacant Southern Area light heavyweight title against Andre Sterling, who's 8-0. That should be a decent little scrap there. That's it really for that one. Moving out now to the SSE Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland. I'm going to contact Ayaz and get his predictions here, but I've got mine ready. And also the listeners have given us theirs. But let's start with the undercard just before we get onto the bigger fights. We've got Paul Butler, 26-2. He's in a 10-rounder against Yon Boyo, who has a record of 41-5. But believe me, it's quite padded. I'm expecting Paul Butler to pick up a good win there. We also have Victor Postel, 29-2. Obviously, former world champion. He lost to Josh Taylor last time out. He, I believe, is a reserve as well. I think if one of the fighters, pulled out the fight, then he'd jump in place of Taylor or Ryan Martin. But he takes on an MTK fighter, Siar Ozgul, who's 14-1. A 10-round contest here. Ozgul in his last fight got stopped in the final round against Mikey Saki, who was 5-2. Credit to Ozgul, really, because I mean, let me just go back to that that fight where he got stopped against Saki, he won every second of the whole fight, and then he just completely run out of steam and got caught in the last round, and Saki jumped all over him with whatever he had left, which he had nothing left, but just I don't know what happened. God helped him out, and he just got him through that fight. And you know, he just got an injection of energy, and he just put everything he could onto his shots and forced a stoppage. That was when I was telling the story about when his brother was sat there ringside saying, "Come on, Mikey, come on, Mikey." I've since found out that wasn't his brother, but we like to tell the listeners that it was because it sounds a whole lot better. But yeah, I've got to be honest, Umar. I know that he's he's under the MTK banner, but this is quite a bad fight in my opinion. I mean, I see this as a mismatch to get knocked out in a fight you were winning, but to get knocked out at Southern Area level and to move up against Postal, who has only lost and looked bad against Crawford and Josh Taylor, two absolute beasts in that division. And, you know, Victor Postal surely wins this fight.
Yeah, it's a bit like Herd Wellborn and
yes,
in some regard Canelo Fielding as well, where it's just like...
Yeah, but Omar, let me interject. Let me just interject and cut you off just a second there. You know, Wellborn is a British champion. You know, Rocky Fielding has got the one loss to Callum Smith, who's a world champion, but Fielding himself is a world champion. We're talking about a guy here, you know, who got stopped at Southern Area level to a guy who was 5-2. But I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, no, of course. Listen, no one thought Osgood would be fighting Victor Postal. I mean, Victor's right up there as one of the best in that division. Very, very good fighter. And it'd be a ridiculous shock if he didn't come through that. But listen, if you offered the fight, a bit like Wellborn, I know you said that Wellborn's British champion, Fielding's world champion. They've fought obviously at a very high level before. But if you offered them type of fights like Canelo's, you heard obviously your Postals, where you're getting a career high payday and it's gonna, you know, impact your life in a great way, for the better. You've got to take it. So no one can sort of discredit him for taking it. But yeah, as you say, it would be a major shock if he you know, pulled it off. But yeah, listen, he's got to take it.
All the very best to him. That is 100% sure. Moving up the card once again, Zach Parker 16-0 takes on Daryl Williams 17-0. This one for the vacant British super middleweight title. This is my kind of fight, Umar. I'm sure that you second that, being a hardcore boxing fan. What a fight this one is! Ooh, take it away, please.
This one is a cracker. I mean, Zach has looked phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I think he does really look like a brilliant talent. But yeah, he's in a cracking fight, and that whole division at the moment is really good domestically. Who have you got for that one, actually?
I've got Zach Parker winning it. The listeners have got Zach Parker to win by stoppage. I think that Zach Parker wins on points because I think that Daryl Williams is made of some tough stuff, and I think he can get quite rugged with it. I know that obviously, you know, he took on Jermaine Smile, who's not really the biggest puncher, but like they were quite tough, rugged affairs, and I think that Parker hasn't really had to grind out like that, and I think he could find himself in deep waters here. Not that he's not going to come through swimming, come through diving in head first when there's a sign saying no diving. He might do it, but I think points. I don't think he stops him. If he does stop him, then it's a serious statement.
Yeah, I mean, to stop Daryl would be, as you said, a big statement. But you wouldn't put it past Zach. He's looked, as I said, phenomenal. And you've obviously just had Zach Chile beating Umar Sadiq. Super middleweight domestically is looking really strong. I think the winner of that against Chelly would be a really good fight as well. But interesting to see how Zach does with Daryl Williams, because he is one tough guy.
Yeah, he certainly is. But yeah, like I say, a fantastic fight there. Moving up the card once again, Josh Taylor, 13-0, puts his WBC silver super lightweight title on the line against Ryan Martin, a man that's trained under Abel Sanchez at the Big Bear Gym up in California. So a fantastic fight here. Yeah, I mean, obviously the British fans probably don't know too much about Ryan Martin, Umar. The average fan doesn't, but he's a very good talent, very good amateur pedigree, very good boxer, obviously undefeated 22-0. He trains amongst some real good fighters. Joe Joyce up there now. I think that they're becoming quite good friends, actually. But Josh Taylor just seems to be, one of the best in that division. Him and Prograis, for me, are the two standout guys, but you cannot write Martin off, because like I say, I don't think we've seen how good he truly is just yet. He's very, very impressive also. A lot of the Americans backing him to win this one.
Yeah, as you said, undefeated, trained in Big Bear, and recently the Americans and international fighters have been getting one over the Brits, so can't overlook him, and I'm sure Josh Taylor isn't. Bit of an unknown quantity, Ryan Martin, especially to the UK market. But if you're in that World Boxing Super Series, you're going to be very good. Otherwise, you wouldn't get picked for it. And undefeated, as you said. So a tough night's work for Josh Taylor. I'm sure it will be, but he's an absolute beast. A really, really good body puncher as well. Josh Taylor, and that's one of my favourite things to see is a good body puncher, and I'm sure he'll come through, Josh Taylor.
Yeah, the listeners, interestingly, not even voting at all for Ryan Martin. It's a complete whitewash. We've got 67% Taylor by knockout, 33% Taylor on points. So no one giving the American a chance. I think that Taylor wins probably by stoppage. I can see it going points, by the way. I think it probably goes points, but just because I don't really want to bet against Taylor getting the knockout, I'm going to say Taylor by knockout. But yeah, I think Martin's a lot better than obviously anyone gives him credit for. And yeah, I think it could end up going points, to be honest. But yeah, I'm in two minds. But Taylor by knockout is what I'm going to say. That's my final answer. Good fight though, like I say, really, really looking forward to that one. And the main event here, Ryan Burnett, 19-0. He takes on Nonito Donaire, 38-5. We'll be speaking to Nonito in a few moments' time, actually. This one for the vacant WBC Diamond Bantamweight title and the WBA Super World Bantamweight title. Ryan Burnett has to be the favourite, which is quite crazy when you think about it at this point in Nonito Donaire's career. Umar, obviously, Nonito being a former 4-weight world champion, he finds himself fighting in Glasgow, Scotland. Probably he wouldn't have imagined this in his wildest dreams. He was here last time out against Carl Frampton. Carl Frampton was excellent that night, and that's why he picked up the win, obviously, on points. Ryan Burnett, a whole nother different fighter, you may as well say. Ryan Burnett obviously fights at bantamweight. Nonito Donaire hasn't made the bantamweight limit for 7 years, but he assures me that he will be making weight when the weigh-in comes on Friday. But yeah, good fight. Another fantastic fight for Burnett here. A chance to really get a scalp on his resume. But Nonito Donaire, obviously, you can never ever shut him out of winning because he's got so much experience and obviously he's got the power. And I should say that at bantamweight, I think in his entire career, he fought at bantamweight for 3 fights and he didn't lose a single round.
Interesting stat there. I didn't know that. Firstly, I think it's great for Scottish boxing and the country that they've got 2 world-class fights in Taylor and Martin and Burnett Donaire on the same card. It's rare you see that, really, that you get on the same card 2 sort of potential main events, because either could be Burnett
and Zach Parker and Darryl Williams, throw that in and all.
Yeah, of course.
It's a wicked card.
Brilliant. Great for Scottish boxing, as I said. Burnett's probably one of my favourite fighters. I think he's class, and I think he will come through. You can't overlook Donaire, though, because one of the most experienced fighters left around in the game still. But I just think he's probably over the hill a bit now, and Burnett on recent form has looked great. So I've got Burnett winning that. But he's in such a tough division. I mean, you've got some killers there with Tete, Rodriguez, and Inoue, especially Inoue. Probably the most. Yeah, I think so. It's the best division in boxing at the moment. I mean, the top four in that. If you put any of them together, they are class fights. And I'm sure we're going to get them. I think all four are going to make the semi-finals, so it should be good.
And the listeners are going with Burnett to win on points. I agree with that also. I think he will probably win on points. I don't think he carries the power to trouble Donaire. And I think he's the man, obviously, on the up. And Donaire is on the way down. I think he'd admit that himself. I just think Adam Booth would have put a fantastic game plan in place. Obviously, one of the best tacticians in my eyes in the world when it comes to boxing training, Mr. Booth. Ayaz has resurfaced, and he's told me that his predictions this week are Josh Taylor to win on points, so that's quite surprising actually. Zach Parker to win on points and Ryan Burnett to win on points, so all points for Ayaz, and he's gone again like that. We may not see him for another couple of weeks. That's our picks there. That's really it for that one. Interesting fight, fantastic card. Moving out now to the Aviator Sports Complex in Brooklyn, New York, USA. 1 or 2 fights, 3 fights actually to mention on this bill. Friend of the show, heavyweight prospect, undefeated Cassius Chaney, 13-0. He takes on Santino Turnbow in a 6-rounder. Turnbow 4-2, his record. Also, we have another friend of the show, Dennis Duglin, 21-6. He's coming off that win over Vaughn Alexander, the undefeated brother of Devon Alexander, a man that obviously Vaughn Alexander served a lot of time in prison. He was undefeated, and then he lost last time out to Dennis Duglin, who on this show said that if he lost, he'd retire. Well, he didn't lose, he didn't retire. He's back here against Saul Roman, whose record is 43-12. Good fight there for Dennis Duglin. I'm expecting him to win that one. And another friend of the show, Sullivan Barrera. I remember when he came on this show and spoke to me in broken English and did a great job of it, if I may say so. His record 21-2. He's in a 10-rounder against Shawnee Monaghan, 29-1. That should be a brilliant fight. Both two real good contenders, real top contenders in the light heavyweight division. That's a 10-rounder there. And now the final bill to mention. This is the bill that I'm calling the Miguel bill. It's happening at the Don Haskins Convention Center in El Paso, Texas. And the reason why I say this is the Miguel show is because this one's going to be shown, by the way, on ESPN+. We've got topping the bill Miguel Berchelt, 34-1. He puts his WBC World Super Featherweight title on the line against Miguel Roman, who's 60-12. What an incredible fight this one. 12-round contest. I'm expecting Berchelt to win. The much fresher man. Good, real big puncher as well, Berchelt. I think Miguel Roman has certainly seen better days. Also, we have Miguel Mariaga. That's 3 Miguels so far out of 3. His record 26-3. He takes on Jose Estrella, whose record is 20-14 with 1 draw. That's a 10-rounder there. And really the last fight to mention on this bill, it's gone under the radar and probably it's not too surprising. A man really whose career has gone under the radar. Saul Neno Rodriguez, 21-0 with 1 draw. Former fighter of the Mayweather Promotions banner. I think that he had a bit of a fallout with Floyd or whatever happened there, and he hasn't fought for over a year and a half. He's still a young guy and he really needs to get back to his career, and it's good to see him back in the ring finally. He's in a 10-rounder against Claudio Tapia, whose record is 28-18 with 4 draws. But that really wraps up the preview part of the show. I'm quite surprised at how long the whole show's lasted. The review in the preview in the news, the first guest, and now obviously it's time to bring in guest number 2. But just before that, it's now time to say goodbye to Umar Ahmed, a man that's helped me out on 2 consecutive shows. It's an undefeated streak now, 2-0 for you, Umar. Thank you once again for making the time for us this week and coming on the show and helping out when Ayaz has gone missing.
No worries. As always, I can jump on whenever Ayaz is missing, which seems like every week now. And yeah, hashtag pray for Ayaz.
Hashtag pray for Ayaz. There will be a reward, maybe a Boxhard podcast t-shirt if he can be seen. I tell you what, I'm going to stick to that. Not only will I put a Boxhard podcast t-shirt on the line, I'm going to have to probably throw in a money prize. If someone can see Ayaz, someone finds him and takes a selfie with him and sends it in, there will be a money prize and a t-shirt. And I say that with every confidence in my heart that you will not find him, because when he goes hiding, he's gone. He really is truly gone. But that's enough of all that. It's now time to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former 4-weight world champion himself. It's, of course, Mr. Nonito Donaire. Nonito, welcome back on the show, brother. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me back.
Hey, it's always my pleasure having you back. Now, you're back on British soil once again, Nonito. How does it feel to be back? Last time they loved you up in Belfast.
It's always great. Right now we're just really focused on this fight. But it's good to be back, and I'm glad I'm back and got this opportunity.
Now, this interview, of course, is taking place on Monday of Fight Week. How long have you been here in the UK, Nonito?
Been here since Thursday of last week. We came in really early, try to get the right time, and so that acclimatized to the time and the weather. So.
And how are you doing with that? Are you fully adjusted yet?
Oh yes, definitely. Time has been good. Been sleeping really well, and we're awake at the time of the fight. So we're just trying to set up where it's comfortable for my body and be ready for the fight.
Now, I do just want to ask you one question, Nonito, about last time out. Obviously, the last time we spoke was in the build-up to that Frampton fight. Like I say, I do just want to get one word from you on that fight. It was a good fight. It was an entertaining fight, but ultimately, Carl Frampton seemed to get his tactics spot on that night and was able to emerge victorious. Please describe that fight for us if you can, Nonito.
We came in with the game plan that night, and, it was working early on, as I was landing the body shots and punches on Carl, but Carl changed it up, and I wasn't able to change up with the tides that Carl was changing, and that's why he was able to beat me in his game plan, in the scheme of the strategy. So he really did really well on that, and I applaud him for fighting really well. I mean, I gave it all I got, and the best man came in to win that night, with a better strategy. So, but I held my head high. I mean, I thought that I did really well against somebody like Carl Frampton. So I was still proud of myself. But that's pretty much how the fight went. Just they had a better game plan than I did.
Very well said and very honest from you, Nonito. Then, of course, it was announced that you'd be entering this World Boxing Super Series tournament at bantamweight. Now, Nonito, you haven't obviously weighed in the bantamweight limit since just over 7 years ago. A lot of people second-guessing your weight. A lot of people simply refusing to believe that you'll be able to make the weight. What is your standpoint on this whole thing?
Well, it makes me laugh a little bit, because I've always been the guy who makes the weight. When I say that I will, it's happening. I'm a man of my word, and I will do it even if it kills me. But after the Carl Frampton fight, I felt that my weight was just too much in the featherweight, and so I trained a little bit. Given the opportunity for the WBSS, I wasn't sure until I felt that I was able to make it. I mean, I'm walking around at 128, which is 10 pounds over the 118, and I don't really lose weight, to fight at 126. I'm walking at it. So we decided that, we can try it out and see how it is. And, this week it's been great. I'm like everybody else, we're cutting down a little bit of weight, but I feel good.
And everything is running smoothly in terms of getting to that target, I'm guessing. I know that you had to do a check weight. Everything's all good.
Yeah, tomorrow I got to weigh in at 121. So I'm pretty much there. I know 100% that the weight's not a problem anymore.
Excellent. So, Nonito, my question is, being 100% honest here, what weight class would you say that you're actually best suited to at this point in your career? Is it bantamweight? Is it perhaps 122?
I think that I'm very comfortable here, because I didn't know how this weight was going to affect me going into it, but I feel really good. I really truly feel really good, and I think this is my real weight. I just pushed and challenged myself continuously, just aiming for the bigger pay, aiming for the bigger challenge, and that's pretty much what happened in my career. I never went back to look back to see where I truly belong, and this is where I belong. All right, now I feel good, I feel great, but we have to see Saturday how I'll perform.
I tell you what, just hearing you say that is getting me excited, Nonito, because I know that you're a very, very honest man, and I believe everything you're saying. I believe that. I believe you when you say that you're feeling good here. I can hear it in your voice, Nonito. I've got to know you a few times now when we've done these interviews, and I believe
Thank you.
Now, you'll be taking on Ryan Burnett. When you were fighting Carl Frampton in the build-up, you were having singing competitions with Ryan Burnett. No singing, but I know that you and your wife went to dinner with him and his wife. How did that all go? It seems like he's a good guy like yourself.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He doesn't let things affect them outside. We know that we talk about it, that we're going to go in there, we're going to try to kill each other. But at the end of it all, we might go sing and have a beer after that, which is great for the sport of boxing, but it's also good for me and him, to be able to be friends afterward, but at the same time, we're going to go kill each other inside the ring. So, that's the sport, this is the game, this is the sport that I'm in. No hard feelings, and we both agree to that, and we're both excited, and we're going to give it all we got, for this fight.
And like I say, you take on Ryan Burnett this weekend. The fight takes place in Glasgow, Scotland. Have you had much time to check him out, Nonito? Because I'm gonna throw a wild guess in here, and I'm gonna say you probably didn't know too much about him before you both turned up for the draft, and then he ended up picking you.
Well, I've seen some of his fights. A lot of my coaches have seen a lot of his fights. One thing that I've been shying away for a very long time in my ways of fighting was my instinct. I would usually come in with a big game plan, A, B, and C, and D, and when those didn't work, like with the Carl Frampton fight, I wasn't able to change. So what we've been working on has been instinct. Just whatever comes at me, I'll decide to create something in that moment in time. So that's something that was very exciting for me to try out in this fight.
And what does a win do for you here, Nonito? Sounds like a bit of a silly question, but aside from the belts, aside from the going into the semi-final of this tournament, what else is on the line here for you personally?
Well, personally, I think that it stamps and then it answers all the questions of whether I'm capable at 118, if I'm comfortable at 118, if I'm strong at 118. All the questions that people have that I have before this fight will all be answered, and I think that's the most important thing aside from winning this fight.
And another thing, Nonito, again, I hate to ask you this, but the absolute opposite of that, a loss here would mean 2 back-to-back losses. It wouldn't, of course, look good. It would make coming to Britain quite an unsuccessful thing for you. But where do you go? Where would Nonito go if that should happen here?
Well, I've always been the type to look at the situation and learn from things. It depends how the outcome is, if it's a domination or if it's a close fight or whatever it may be. It's not the first time I've lost. So it doesn't deter me from going into creating my goals and my goals in boxing. But most of all, it just shows to see if I'm safe in this game, because I love what I do. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life if I can, but I know that's not possible. So I'm going to prolong the whole boxing as much as I can, as long as it's safe for me. But when it really doesn't come down to safety, when safety is the key, then that would be my where I hang up the gloves, But I love the boxing world. I love the boxing, but my family is the most important thing to me. And if they say that I'm not safe enough for this game anymore, then I no longer need to be in this game. But aside from that, I love this game, and I will stick with it for the longest time.
And let me just confirm this. You've had previously, I think it's 3 fights in total at bantamweight before, because you never really hung around there for too long. Those 3 fights, I mean, you took on Vladimir Sidorenko. Obviously, you stopped him in 4 rounds. You took on Fernando Montiel. You stopped him in 2 rounds, and then you completely shut out the previously undefeated Omar Narvaez. So I don't think you've actually lost a round at this weight. Is that right?
No, I'm undefeated in this weight class. Yes.
Not only undefeated, but you haven't even lost a round, Nonito. So that is quite impressive. That is a little bit of extra spice to add to the pot. And coming down to the last couple questions, Nonito, I know that you're not the biggest fan of watching boxing, aside from, participating in it. But is there anyone at the moment that's caught your eye that you're watching, that you're a big fan of at this stage? I love watching the like Crawford and them, Mikey Garcia. But in the WBSS, I get excited with the weight class. Watching Tete's fight, watching Inoue fight. And even just all the guys. I mean, the cruiserweight, was an incredible series. So I've been watching a lot of those stuff. But the guys that I really, really get into and learn a lot is from Crawford and them. Crawford, Canelo, Triple G, and all those big names. I mean, those are very exciting, and that's where I really, truly come to watch the fights. And what is your opinion on Inoue, a guy that is just completely obliterating everyone he gets in the ring with at the moment? What's your take on him so far?
He's a dangerous guy. He has big punch, He has great timing, and he's a force. So I'm really excited to get there, because that's one of those guys that gets me excited when I go inside the ring, because they're scary and they're dangerous, and that's where I like to be. Is to prove, it's not so much to prove, but it's exciting. It's exciting to be there with good fighters.
And finally, Nonito, I want to ask if you saw either of these 2 fights. It's going to sound pretty random the way I'm going to throw these in, but did you happen to see Magdaleno lose to Isaac Dogbo? Did you see that fight at all?
Yes. It's funny because I was out. I knew the weakness of Magdaleno, and that's pretty much what these guys did was take him over, because knowing that Magdaleno's not the kind of guy who's very disciplined. He blows up and loses a lot of weight in the late rounds. I mean, in the closer to the weigh-in, so he doesn't have that much energy, and they just took it to him. Early on, Dogbo was hit and dropped. Just shaking off the rust, and when he was able to be comfortable, he just took it to him and took him out.
Yeah, very good.
So he did really well.
Yeah, for sure. And did you happen to see Pacquiao's fight against Matisse? He seemed like he rolled back the clock a little bit, and it was like the Pacquiao of old almost.
Pacquiao always will have that power. His speed has diminished a little, but he's still a very dangerous fighter, and I think that he's gonna do well against Broner.
Yeah. Should that fight be 100% confirmed, which I'm not sure it is, but again, if it does happen, that's a fantastic fight. Nonito, is there anything at all that you want to say just before we let you go, perhaps to our listeners, to anyone at all? The floor is yours. Take it away.
Oh, man, I'm always grateful for this opportunity. I want to thank you guys for all the support. You guys will have a great fight this Saturday. Burnett's a tough guy. I'm a tough guy. You'll have a fight. That's one thing that I guarantee. So you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Life. just have fun. You guys will have fun watching this fight, so I appreciate you guys.
I'm sure that we will. Now, Nonito, I just want to say it's always my pleasure having you on the show. You know that yourself. Best of luck for Saturday night, and hopefully next time we speak, I'll be speaking to the new WBC Diamond and WBA Super Bantamweight Champion of the World.
That's right. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 159 of the Boxhard podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Umar Ahmed has been with me for the duration of the podcast. A big thank you to our 2 guests also on this week's show, the former 4-weight world champion himself, Mr. Nonito Donaire, and the undefeated high-flying flyweight, Mr. Andrew Selby. The Prediction League currently stands at a complete draw. Myself, Ayaz, and you, the listeners, are all tied on 67 points, but don't worry, there are are another 3 points up for grabs this weekend. Best of luck with that. Thank you all for tuning into this week's show once again. Enjoy your weekends, people. Please do. And we shall see you all again next week.